Alright, my throat was not ready for that. One sec. Oh, hey. Let's give that one another go. Good morning, Samoa! And welcome back to Star Trek Strange New Worlds Season 3, Episodes 1 and 2, Hegemony Part 2, and Wedding Bells Part 3. Yes, Jack's Law, Star Trek is back. I didn't realize how late in the week it was, and I had to last minute commission a thumbnail. But yeah, Strange New Worlds is back. I mean, to be fair, man, Star Trek, here's a franchise I have not talked about in a while. In fact, I've just realized I haven't even switched over the channel logo. It's been a while. I haven't done those Star Trek reviews in a while. I got my Excelsior here. Don't worry, I want to get back into those. But I recently ditched Adobe with their subscription model. So I not only do I have to fill them, but I have to find a replacement for Premiere to edit the software. But I'm kind of hoping to start those by like sometime next month at the latest, get those back going again. And my wife and I have talked about doing, what are they called, the Star Trek newbie reviews or whatever of those starships. Those are really fun. They just take a lot of time for us to do. But yes, Strange New Worlds, it's been a long time. It's been almost 2 years since Season 2. But, I mean, since then, we've gone through 2 Doctor Who's. Yes, I was surprised, too. We've gone through the 14th and 15th Doctor. We've gone through the cancellation and saving of Star Trek Prodigy. We've gone through the cancellation of Lower Decks. And we got the Section 31 movie, which I've never reviewed. I am unlikely to review. I've still not seen the whole thing, to be honest. But yeah, suffice it to say, that hasn't been the most conducive to fostering a fandom, especially when Doctor Who comes back so I'll say it, so strong. But Strange New Worlds, I've been out of it. First off, did you know, I learned that Strange New Worlds had, like, recently announced its 5th and final season of 6 episodes? That feels weird to know about. Sorry, I still have a bit of a lingering cough from something. But yeah, that's weird. So I was actually a little worried, like, would I still be motivated to do the Star Trek reviews? Because it's been a while, and I know all the fans, everyone is like, Strange New Worlds is like the best thing since Deep Space Nine. And don't get me wrong, Strange New Worlds is good. But I feel like, I don't know, I took a quick peek at the Redding. I haven't had my pulse on this fandom in ages to see, and there is a lot of negativity about new Star Trek. People seem to like these episodes. But Strange New Worlds, for me, it will produce those, like, best thing since, I don't know, Inner Light or whatever, you know, it'll produce some of the best of Star Trek. And every time it does that, in my mind, it's got like an equal number of horrific mistakes among the worst of the franchise. And for me, Strange New World has been this interesting balance that it really kind of averages out right to the middle. Don't get me wrong, I like Strange New Worlds, but where if it does something like medium good, I can point to something else that's medium bad, almost like a 1-to-1 ratio. So Strange New Worlds hasn't been some sort of like best thing since Deep Space Nine for me. I was kind of more into Lower Decks, and honestly even Prodigy. But getting into this episode, I was worried because we left off with Hegemony Part 1, right? Which was setting up for Gorn War stuff, which I'm very much not a fan of the Gorn stuff. It was clear from the trailer we weren't just going to be about war, but, you know, so I wasn't sure about that episode. And then I started episode 2. We're going to start talking with episode 2. Why? Because I never like starting with negativity. But episode 2 I started, and it was very clearly gonna be, here we go, let's just get this guy up, very clearly gonna be about Spock and Christine. And if maybe you're new to my reviews, here's some like bucket lists of things I'm generally not a fan of in Strange New Worlds. The Gorn, the legacy characters who had like any presence greater than Pike back in the day. Spock, Christine, and their relationship. So this was looking. I was worried. I'm like, oh no, am I not gonna have anything good to talk about for 2 episodes for the premiere? And then I watched one of my favorite episodes in a long time. God damn, they did the impossible. I don't know. I really love this second one. The Wedding Bells Blues was it? So a bit of background, right? John Delancey's a national treasure. He's great. I love Q. Love the Q episodes. I always looked forward to them. I was disappointed when Deep Space Nine only had one. I get it. He didn't work in Deep Space Nine. But then when Voyager kept bringing him back, I loved it. And I was always afraid, even like as a teenager watching Star Trek, that one day they'd replace Q. You know, they'd replace John Delancey. Because like a lot of the TNG cast, he's one of those characters where like, I don't think anyone else could play him in the role. You can't get anyone but Brent Spiner to play Data. You can't get anyone but John Delancey to play Q. And obviously this is not our Q, but this is, I think Q Jr. is the, if not explicit, the implication. Man, I love this guy as a Q. I really, really hope we've just set up the next Q. I don't know how much I'd want him to interact with, like, Strange New Worlds era, because I'm really glad they preserved, honestly, for once in this franchise, they preserved the whole, like, we didn't know about Q till TNG. But, like, I don't know, 32nd Century, this guy nailed it for me. I loved him. I loved the voice. I loved the outfit. I loved the Trelane-inspiredness. There was a lot of Trelane in him. He had a lot of, like, greetings and felicitations and all that stuff. I don't think he's meant to be Trelane explicitly, but obviously related. I love this guy. I don't know any of the actors' names, but I love this guy. And this episode got a few, like, good laughs out of me, too. I think I laughed at this one. I gasped when Spock insulted that mustache. I genuinely laughed out loud at the line. I don't remember where it is, but Spock's like, if one of our intellects could overpower this illusion, I don't think it would be yours. This one got some good laughs. This one was great and fun. I think Stranger Worlds has pretty consistently been at its best when it's just like a fun random romp, you know? And so this one was very welcome. Jack Slot. It's so cool. Tuvok is real. That is so cool. Tuvok in real life asked me if it was a shakedown. He did not measure Star Trek like that. I'm not sure exactly what you're talking about, Jack Slot, to be honest. Anyway, I do want to open with this second episode because, as I said, I don't. If you want me to like complain about an episode of Star Trek, you can stay till the end. Tuvok. That doesn't sound right. Tim Russ was like a mega Star Trek nerd. But no, I don't think I've met any of the Star Trek actors. To be honest, like, Kira was in Lilac City Comic-Con recently, but we didn't go because there was a lot of stuff going on. But yeah. No, I really enjoyed this episode. I think the costumes were fantastic. It says a lot that this is an episode about Spock and Christine and their relationship, and I enjoyed it. It's really giving me, I still have this, the whole, like, I was wrong, whoops. That's the wrong layer. The I was wrong sticky note from, what was it? It was Spock and T'Lyn. Spock Among Us? What the heck was it called? It's the Time Amok one that I was sure I'd hate, but I ended up really enjoying. Yeah, no, I just think I liked it. I really did. Roger Corby was great. Even aspects of the romances of Spock's character, of that relationship, I appreciated. I really loved the story they told here. The Sun, the Moon, and the Star story. I think originally, I really don't remember too much about Corby and Christine. I know Christine was unhappy with him eventually, but I think it did start it off nice and stuff, so that was great to see. I don't know, I just thought that was a great story. I really liked it. I really liked Spock. Yeah, a bunch of things about the resolution. I think the resolution was clever. Let's find him. I mean, not in a bad way, but I could tell instantly what he's doing. Were the same poems Roger told Christine, and the same story to make her realize that she loved that bulldog over there. But no, I really liked the character work in it. Even though, as I said, I'm not a huge fan of Spock and Christine's relationship, or Spock in general. I can appreciate, and I actually did like, even from Spock, the way the speech was handled as not only the context of the wedding vows, but basically Spock's admission of this is why Roger's better for you. Like his own acceptance. I think it even talks back to Christine at the start, when she's like, I don't know why, I said I didn't want commitment, and now I've brought Roger home. And I feel like that scene was very much Spock working it out. But yeah, this one, I think this was just a very strong episode. It had loads of laughs, honestly, exactly what I wanted from Stranger Worlds. And I've just remembered, where the heck is he? We got a new side character in this one. We got that doctor guy. I do not remember his name. There we go. I loved this guy from, like, just this one scene. Honestly, my reaction from this guy was, you're telling me that for 2 seasons I could have had this guy instead of Chapel? I don't know. I mean, he just had a great personality, and as an opening scene, I think he's going to become a personal favorite on the show. We'll touch on this a bit, but Ortega's as a character previously, I think, gets a lot of love based off of sort of vibes that they give off, and maybe some of the energy they have. But as a character, there hasn't really been, honestly, anything going on with him. And I know there's some external factors about that. I know my mic is a little bit on the quiet side, and I'm trying to sneakily adjust that. But I feel like I'm getting the same kind of vibes, except this guy's been on screen for 20 seconds. So I'm like, man, that is an amazing start for a character. I just really like that guy. The energy, the jokes he made. I'm with Mbanga. I would have got him on my ship instantly. We've added a few characters, which is interesting. We've got the bartender lady, who, I mean, I don't know how prominent they'll be. No, I don't want to watch Lower Decks. I don't know how prominent they'll be. And we've got Scotty, of course, who does not appear in this episode. No, he does appear in this episode in an amazing Scottish fancy dress. I've just realized, doesn't Scotty wear a sort of Scottish-ified version of the formal wear in the movies? I can't remember. That's a pretty common thing. Yeah, Scotty's like every Legacy character except Mbanga and Pike. I kind of wish they weren't here. But it's noteworthy that we're adding so much characters when there's 26 episodes left of the whole series. I don't know. It's interesting. I feel like we probably have more characters than we do episodes per season by a good margin. But at the same time, when Spock went to his bachelor's party, there were like 4 guys there, I think. And I remember just having the reaction like, wow, are there really not like that many just male cast members? Who I assume is about half the cast. There's like 4 people. I guess there's Spock would also be here. And like 10, that's like about the same. I think that's even a little big for the cast. I'm just assuming. What actually is? I'm assuming it's 50-50, but Strange New Worlds cast. So you have Una, Chapel, Leon, the Pi lady whose name I don't pronounce. And yeah, her. Yeah, it's 50-50. So like it's one of the busier main casts we've had, But this just feels so light. I don't know, like, could you imagine a Deep Space Nine bachelor party with, like, 4 people? Maybe it's the room size. It just felt so empty. So I do hope they give these new characters, and honestly, like, some of the existing characters, a lot of work being done and development. And don't get me wrong, Ortega's is clearly, like, getting a plot. But we'll get into that in the sort of scene by scene. But yeah, we've gotten a bunch of new characters to the show, which is interesting to note. Also interesting to note that Scotty apparently doesn't drink. I honestly don't know what's up with that, and I'm going to choose to ignore it. I'm a bit... Are we setting up for some joke where, like, he gets stressed in drinks and then discovers a love of alcohol? Because that's alcoholism. That's not good. Is this part of the wish? Is this part of the Q magic? I don't know. But yeah. Oh. Sorry, I went to take a drink and almost spilled the water everywhere. I think... Let's talk about a bit about the Q situation, then we'll do scene by scene. I really like the inclusion of John Delancey in, like, his 5th appearance, since he said he'd never play Q again. To me, that helps. I mean, first off, that's a great way to establish Q without actually having to say it. And it's always a privilege to get him. But this helped me feel kind of more like a passing of the torch moment. Because I love John Delancey. He's a national treasure, and he's not getting any younger. It's like, we wrapped up Q. We really did. We wrapped up Q's storyline. So I guess you could argue, why are we bringing him back? But as bad as season 2 of Picard was, I think a lot of those key moments with Q really worked. And to be honest, I'm actually struggling to remember what they were. I think bringing Q back has had a bit of a negative effect on sort of the finality of that ending. But, you know, Q's had his story, and so I am absolutely down for a new Q. Maybe he was a one-off Trelane. Maybe he's just going to be in a few Strange New Worlds episodes, but this guy did an amazing performance, not to mention the outfits. I know this might be like his wedding attire, but I really love this Trelane-esque. I'd love it if this is just what the guy wears. I think we will go into a scene by scene. I don't know how long. Oops, punched my mic again. That's another thing with Strange New Worlds, is I don't know how long these streams might be. I mean, we've done about 22 minutes. That's on pace. They tend to come in at a little under 50. But honestly, this one, there you go, just enjoy that frame of Spock. Oh god, yeah, we also got Ortegas' brother and a blossoming relationship with Uhura. There's an establishing shot. Love that outfit. But we really have, like, introduced a lot of characters and plots. I wonder if this means maybe they feel they've kind of wrapped up some of the plots they were working on, like with Leon. But no, we still got Leon and Kirk, I think, is an open plot line. We've got Pike and the other captain. I don't know. I'm a little worried it's going to be overpacked, especially with how some of the characters have been handled in the past. Yeah, I don't feel... There's a lot of characters I don't feel too closely to. Just, I think, a combination of the episode count and that's it. I mean, to switch over, back in the first episode, when Ortega is dying, I thought they were in the trailers, but I didn't remember for sure. So I kind of felt like they might actually kill her wherever she is in this. There we go. Paramount! Whatever. When Ortegas is dying, that's the frame you get to look at. My kind of biggest thought is, well, there goes one of my 5 thumbnails. I like Ortegas. There just hasn't been much of a character. So, actually, I've changed my mind. Let's talk about the characters that we're seeming to get. Because Ortegas is finally getting development. I don't remember the details. I think there's something with the actor I mentioned before, that Ortega's hasn't been getting a lot of focus because of. I think they were busy, or I don't remember. So I'm a little disappointed that the direction we seem to be going with Ortega's, if I just let it play for a few seconds, is Gorn PTSD. There's nothing wrong with that inherently, but for one, it's kind of Leon's thing. She seems to have sort of conquered it, kind of nearing the end of her own journey. So maybe we're going into something like Leon now has to mentor Ortega's. But, as we'll see when we talk about the first episode, I really, really don't like literally anything to do with the Gorn in Strange New Worlds. This episode is just further proof that I think Strange New Worlds is at its best when it is just trying to have fun and is not trying to do war or stakes, or not no stakes, of course, but not the big, like, galactic scale stakes. I don't think that's Strange New Worlds. I think Strange New Worlds needs to embrace the fact that it's the original series. And so giving this character the sort of Gorn PTSD is just adding another element of something that's depressing to a character that I think people seem to love because of how bubbly and cocky and not PTSD they are. And you could tell a good story with, like, PTSD, but I feel like we've just had so many recently. Honestly, it kind of killed. I don't want to judge it before it's come, but I'm like, yeah, I'm not interested in this character anymore. And so it's a good thing you've just shoved, like, 3 new characters into me that I like much better. I also wonder if this means we're going to be getting more Gorn, which would be unfortunate, but I don't know. What can I do? I'll take the good episodes I can get. But yeah, let's go into a scene by scene. I'm actually probably getting way ahead of pace. I know we've got 2 episodes to cover, so I didn't want to do too much. It's worth noting. Actually, this is the wrong previously on, but it's worth noting I did not watch any of season 2 before I watched these episodes. As usual, I finished like 10-20 minutes before going live, watching them the first time. So the previously ons were nice, but I remember just really not liking Hegemony Part 1. Was that even like the worst one of season 2? Star Trek SNW season 2. It probably was my worst. I didn't like it. And if you want my thoughts on that episode, all right. Where's my list of episodes? Among the charades. Yes, that's easily the worst one. If you want my thoughts on that episode, you can go watch the stream I did then. So I guess it's a good thing for me that we got the 2 episodes, because the Wedding Well Blues was just so much stronger. I don't know if we get any in this scene. You can see them a bunch. I liked seeing a lot of the starships. I'm sure we'll get fan home fodder from a lot of these. But I think the Strange New Worlds fleet has found a good place. I still kind of have to ignore how close to the original series we are anytime I discuss Discovery or Strange New Worlds. But Discovery's fleet has definitely warmed to me a lot over the years. It is terrible for like 5 years before Kirk. When are we? We're something like way too close. But as generically a midpoint between Enterprise and the original series, I really like it. I really like the sort of experimentation that suggests a very early and rapidly growing Federation. They're trying a whole bunch of ideas, and they haven't quite settled on the saucer secondary hull thing, but they're definitely acknowledging it is a very strong ship design. But there were a few things. I swear there's a Crossfield class in the background, which my memory also says doesn't make sense. I thought there were only 2, but hey, they could always have made another one. And I swear I swear, some point in one of the final few shots, there's a Columbia-class refit NX. Is it that one? Is that more? That might be an Enterprise. It might be that one. I swear, if you don't know, it's the NX-01, but the design where they add the secondary hull to the bottom, which has been on my channel in one of the Star Trek newbie reviews. I don't think I reviewed that one myself, though, which is weird because it's one of my favorite designs. There you go. Is it that guy? I swear we've got NX. That. Like, look, that's an NX refit, right? That's something pretty close. Oh, and there's your Crossfield class. Your Discovery. Other than that, you got like a Farragut. It definitely feels like a cohesive fleet and much more uniform than Discovery, which is the direction I would take it if I was in charge, because that's what it should be. We've got to be making our ways towards the original series look. I always kind of headcanon that at TOS, and to an extent TMP, is kind of when they figure it out. I don't know, this isn't the point for my big, like, Star Trek design headcanon. I've thought about videos for that, but I've been out of making videos proper for ages, and I don't know. If I couldn't finish the Doctor Who ranking video, I don't know if I'll ever actually get around to that. But yeah, opening up, again, I don't think there's too much strength in the early part of the episode for me. Spock dancing, look, at this point, I've just decided to accept Ethan Peck is doing an outstanding job of playing the character that the producers want, which is a bad Spock. That is my stance. That is my take. There's a rule on this channel. We don't talk about Ethan Peck's Spock. And so, is this Spock? Not really. Not like the Spock who is a few years from, yes, one of your human emotions. But, you know, I'm past it. Oh, here we go. It is nice seeing some of the ships. Is that like the Vulcan cruiser? That looks like a Vulcan ship with a Starfleet nacelle on it. That's a weird one. I probably own a lot of the ships. But hey, Fan Home needs something to make. Yeah, I liked Corby in this episode. He seems like a good guy. I really liked the actor. I just think the whole supporting cast this episode was very strong. And I don't know. I like the guy. I think it really helps. The episode does a great job making him just a great guy. He seems like a great partner from what we have. I like that they made him, you know, he's a respectable archaeologist in his field. He felt, I don't know, maybe something like classic Trek about him. Just the archaeologist shows up and everyone's like, oh yeah, I've read your paper, because we're Utopia. You know, we're all like into that sort of thing because we work for Starfleet and we're also explorers. I just really liked him. I think Ethan Peck also had a very strong performance here. I don't think I've ever critiqued Ethan Peck as an actor. It's just the character that he is acting is what I don't like. Ortega's, it is nice. It is nice seeing her getting a story. Uhura will probably get a little more focus. I imagine they'll do something with this relationship here. That could be fun. I mean, I think these three were fun together. I enjoyed watching them. I didn't realize Ortega's had a brother, as I desperately search for a non-blurry establishing shot. I'm sorry. This is Paramount Plus. I have no quality control options on Paramount Plus, so I can't force it into like full HD. But also, I'm on fiber internet. I definitely have the internet to watch this at full HD, but Paramount is been a shitty streaming service for as long as I've used it, so who knows. I think I've said everything I want to. I really like this guy. He's got great energy. What I want is a Strange New Worlds that is full of people like this. You can have Una, you can have Pike, you can have Mbenga. They are legacy characters who you could probably delete them. Well, okay, maybe not Pike, but you could. They're largely background to me, you know? The original series never did much with them. But all of the original characters, I feel with those exceptions, I like so much stronger than the legacy actors they're getting as recast, and I'm just not getting anything from them. Like Uhura, Scotty, I don't. It's hard to even see them as Uhura and Scotty. I mean, Scotty has a Scottish accent that I don't think is great, and it's gonna be real embarrassing if it's legit. But I don't know. I'm like, give me this guy. Give me a fun new character you can do whatever you want with. Jack Slaw. It always trips me up, Jack Slaw, when your little icon changes midstream. I'm like, oh look, I know someone else. And I'm like, no wait, that's still Jack Slaw. Sorry, Jack Slaw. I am glancing at a lot of your comments. They are coming in quite fast. But no, I like this guy. I really hope this guy gets focused. I hope this guy isn't just some guy in the background. We kind of forget about him. I really hope he doesn't become sort of an Ortega's, where great vibes, please do something with the character. But even if he is just kind of cool vibes in the sickbay, he was very cool vibes. I will give him that. I knew your name. I used to know her name. Captain, female captain, Pike's girlfriend. What's her name? Batel. Captain Batel, I'm pretty sure. I feel like she kind of disappeared halfway through this episode. I did enjoy, we'll probably talk more about this relationship for the first episode, but I do enjoy Pike and Mattel. I think it does add something. It adds a nice bit of character work. I don't really know what they'll do with it this season. To be honest, I'm a little unsure what you do with it until the ending. Because, of course, we know where Pike is going. We know Pike is going to go off to live with a woman who is not her. Which is always... I will admit, that's been a weird thing watching Strange New Worlds, is knowing that this relationship... I hope they acknowledge that. Either she dies or they break up. Because, it'd suck if the ending of this relationship is, and then at some point Pike, I guess, just abandons her for another woman he's apparently been pining over this entire time. Of course, the woman from, what the hell is it called? The Cage. And the Menagerie, who's living on Talos? I think it's Talos, where Pike is going to go and live after his accident. I've heard some people... I saw once, I was reading about the announcement of the end of Strange New Worlds with Season 5, saying that it should just end with, a modern version of the Menagerie, which feels weird, because that's, TOS. That's a bit late. Maybe, The Cage? I don't know. I feel like that could be fun, but I almost feel like you should end on Pike's injury. But that's not a very happy ending, is it? Maybe you can have some sort of, sense of duty thing, or maybe we can have, we have his accident, but then some of the ending scenes are him happily on Talos. I don't know. It'd be fun to make that full circle. But yeah, I do hope they haven't sort of done this all too early. The ending of Deep Space Nine, where they just kind of kick Dukat out into the street, halfway through that 10-part epic, because they kind of got him in place too early. This is the real reason if you read like making up stuff. They kind of got too caught where he needed to be too early, and the rest of the plot wasn't ready for him to be in place. So they had to write an excuse to get him out of the action for like 5 episodes so he'd be ready for the finale. Because God, Deep Space Nine has no right to be as good as it is for how chaotically unplanned it was. This shot did confuse me. I have no idea where they are. I think that's the saucer section, actually. But yeah, I'm still worried about this episode at this point, because it's Spock and Christine, and I do not care. I'm sorry, I just do not care about Spock and Christine, because I like the canon. I don't see this Spock and this Christine going into the start of TOS. And maybe one day, in the next few seasons, they'll write a perfectly sensible explanation that makes me fully believe it. And my response will be, man, I wish we had that at season 1. Because it's not been super enjoyable watching it unfold, not knowing this is hypothetically coming. Bar scene, I already talked about. I think it was really good with... I like the new guy. Just like, no, I want to hear the story. Just not picking up on it. And I do really like the Sun, the Moon, and the Stars storyline. I'm glad I hit this specific frame, because I didn't spot this was a Vulcan bartender. I noticed it was a different guy up here, but I went, hang on a minute, that's not a Vulcan bartender. Honestly, that was it's a very good setup to get into the Q stuff. Like, I'm going to call him Q. I guess technically it's Q Jr. I'm going to call him Q. The episode really... It takes... Oh my gosh, my mouse is broken. There we go. It takes... No, my mouse is still broken. Hello? It actually takes a lot longer to get to the Q stuff than I would have thought. We're, what, a third into the episode? But it didn't feel like it was too much. I felt like it paced itself well. It's probably setting up some stuff for the rest of the season as well. And this guy is truly a delight. I love his suits. I just realized he's wearing a totally different outfit now. I don't think I've liked someone's outfits this much since Quark. I love Quark's outfits. But yeah, I like the whole setup. I mean, I kind of wondered early on. I don't think he snaps here, but the allusions to both Trelane and the Q were fun as a fan to kind of work out which one we're going with, or are we going with both? I was able to pick up on the Q. I think that was my running theory for the longest time. And it's just a testimony to the actor, how on board I was with, here's quote unquote the next Q. It's not John Delancey. Because I've been worried about that for a long time. But this guy knocks it out of the park. He just embodies what the sort of series Q should be. I mean, Q is odd as a Q. He's definitely not representative of his species, but the sort of interfering in the fun, jovial way, he's a god and he knows it. I love this guy. I love that the resolution was, for so many reasons. It's like, I caught him digging on the hold homework world. And like, look at him. He's just so handsome and perfect. And like, that's the whole reason. That's it. That's everything. Fair. I love it. I also love that we talked about the Q homeworld. I know Voyager, I think it was Voyager, mentioned that the Q used to be like us. They sort of ascended, became what they are. And I thought that was fun. I love the explicit reference to it. I've always kind of liked to think of Trelane. I know it doesn't super work, but Trelane to me is a Q from the period after they were just like normal humans, but before they ascended, like they still had mystical powers and whatever, but they had to be technologically aided. And they're kind of on the path to their TNG state. That's kind of how I like to see Trelane, so I'm not at all opposed to the illusions, especially because we didn't say this is Trelane. We didn't say Trelane or a Q. We just had this guy use some old-timey words and dress in a fancy blue coat. And I like that. I really like when you deal with some theories that can be a little controversial, like Trelane is a Q. If you watch the Trelane episode, I don't think it really works. I don't think the like green floaty things are Q, really. It's obviously not the intent, because Q didn't exist at the time. But obviously Q was based off Trelane. And so I like the illusions. You could let the Q Trelane as a Q people run off and have a great time, and you can let the people who don't like it wave it away. Because honestly, I'm down for a Q. That he's definitely different to John Delancey, but he nails the essence. It should be like he just talks in a lot of old-timey fancy talk, greetings and felicitations and all that, because that's fun, and why not? I love it. It's almost a confidence, I think, that the Q need. That's really it. It's like a fun, almost Doctor Who-esque, I'm just gonna be who I want and I know it, but with the addition of like, I'm also immortal and God, so like, I'm untouchable. Q is like a Doctor Who never gets to be a child. The Q definitely are the what's the point of being grown up if you can't be childish sometimes sort of mentality. Except I don't know, the Q do need that responsibility every now and then. Like, John Delancey's Q has the fear of the Borg. He'll have serious conversations with Picard about how the Continuum fears humanity and what they'll become. But I think making this a child to the Q's eyes, making this Q Jr. really helps. Because Q was a little rascal. Look at that face. Q was a little rascal in Voyager. Of course, he was much younger. But I think having it be a younger Q, I guess you could kind of say like a Q that's in college in a fraternity kind of vibes. You can lose a lot of that seriousness, but you could also maybe even have him learn life lessons from Pike or the Academy in Star Trek Academy, and kind of do the journey Q Jr. went on a bit. We're learning some level of responsibility, but at a more mature age, or honestly just again, because it's been many, many years, and who cares? This could also be Q Jr.'s brother, because, I mean, Q Jr., like, it's a Q. He can look however he wants, but Q Jr. was, of course, like, not blonde. I'm pretty sure he was John Delancey's actual son. But it's a Q. I don't care. He can look like this. This guy gave me very Harry Potter, but without the J.K. Rowling vibes. Like, if modern Harry Potter could just exist, I feel like this would be a character out of that world, in a very good way. It's the sort of magical whimsy, do whatever, that I think kind of captured a lot of people with Harry Potter. But of course, now we don't have J.K. Rowling, so it's even better. Found him at the point. Yeah. Yeah, I agree, Jack Slaw. No, I think this guy's great. I didn't even wonder, like, I wonder if this guy would be a good doctor. The doctor, of course, has to have a little more responsibility than a Q. But I just realized as well, he's wearing medals. I imagine that's got to be Trelane-like. And I appreciate as well, one of my worries with modern Q was the whole, like, snapping mechanic in the flashes, which is it's 1980, let's make the effect easy to do. And I think they kept that for Picard, but I really like the redone snap, the kind of echoey to it, but still instantly I'm like, he's a Q. It's the Q snap. I love that they maintain that. And I think that's an important thing for me, just the little detail of the snapping to do all the powers. I mean, maybe people might complain that like it's copying Thanos or whatever, but I don't know. I don't think you really have that issue unless he starts snapping to dissolve people. We're getting ahead, but his punishments, just like, you're a dog now. Beautiful. Where's the dog? That's so cute. I just love the whole sequence. Well, he's like, that's right, everyone's dead. You're dead. Wearing a crown, you're dead. No mouth. I like that, actually. You don't have to die. He gets it. He just gets it. The writers get it. And I'm so happy. I want more of this Q. I'm gonna, like, if Star Trek cancels with Academy, I think my biggest, like, downside of that is that we don't get more of this guy. I think that's gonna be my biggest disappointment, is that we won't get more of this guy as Q if Star Trek was canceled tomorrow. In fact, if Star Trek canceled tomorrow, I think that's the only thing I'd be devastated about. Moving on. I mean, these were nice demonstrations of his powers. This was a nice demonstration of, honestly, Roger? Yes, Roger. I've said his names correctly so many times. Corby, Dr. Corby. Yeah, Roger Corby. It was just really well done. I like the reflections of a way of this guy disguising himself, but we still get to see the same Q. Nitpick time, right? There's the entire crew of the Enterprise and like 107 guests, right? Look at these chairs. There were like maybe 100 people there. I feel like my wedding might have been bigger than this, and my wedding did not have 100 people in attendance. But no, it was good. It just was really good. I like Spock and Corby together. Actually, I've just realized, I wonder if the thing where Dr. Corby wakes up in bed with Spock is a reference to the famous one with Picard and Q in bed. But yeah, this one was a blast, honestly. I would not be surprised if I come out of this season and this is my highlight. I mean, a lot of the solutions were clever too. If we take a step back, like, hey, what about all the people who aren't on the guest list or the crew? Thinking about it, that's actually kind of terrifying that the Enterprise has the ability to recognize 107 random civilians by scanning them. There's a lot of ethical violations in these two-parters. Mostly the last part, the part episode 1. But to be fair, that is kind of a problem with classic Trek as well. Yeah, I kind of like the interior design of the sets. It's good. It doesn't scream Enterprise to me. That's kind of been my biggest complaint with a lot of... it's very much got a modern sci-fi generic base that they've attached coziness to. And the coziness is nice, but you still have, like, this, which isn't very Enterprise to me. But it doesn't get in the... Like this. This isn't the Enterprise. It's not. It doesn't really get in the way of the episodes at this point. I still think the bridge set is good, as I recall. It is weird seeing a lot of like functional displays that are just things we have now, I think especially in this era. But whatever. I mean, I get why they do it. Pike's quarters is nice. It's ginormous. It did affect... you know, how many people were in here. But I really love the idea of Pike's quarters. I think I've read the idea is that as a captain, you can kind of have a say on your quarters and what they're like. And Pike just went, get rid of, like, everything. I want extra space to be a kitchen. Like, put a bed in the corner and then everything else is a kitchen. And I really like that for Pike. I get that. And that might have even been an Anson Mount suggestion. And then here, this, I think if they do a Q sequel, which please, by God, do a sequel with this guy, I hope it leans into more stuff like this, because I really enjoyed at the end when we just did random Q stuff, like Spock in a glass. That guy, he's a dog now. I just love those elements of the Q episodes, and I'm 10 out of 10, 11 out of 10 on this guy as Q. Everything, I think, just fell perfectly into place. And honestly, I think that's it for the episode. When I saw Pike and Una looking at the alien with like 4 hands and being like, are you thinking what I'm thinking? If we play our cards right. I did not think they wanted to hire them as a bartender. I won't say what I thought they were alluding to, but it was not bartending. It was a very weird scene. The alien does look kind of familiar. You know what? I think it's the Kelpians. She's not a Kelpian, but I think the sort of vaguely featureless, I don't know. I think it reminds me of Saru's sister is the vibes I'm getting. But if we have seen this species in another episode, I'd love to know. Oh, you know what? Is this the... No, I know who they are. It's the guy from the animated series. It's, probably not the same guy, you know, but the 3-armed task guy. You know the guy, right? The task guy. I think we have seen him before. Lower Decks had one. God, I can't remember if live action has seen a 3-armed task guy. I'll give it Star Trek Discovery 3-armed task. That's not in the first Google result, so I'm gonna go with a no. Maybe Picard. But yeah, that was very strong. Don't get me. I'm gonna do episode 1, but Star Trek Strange New Worlds, Memory Alpha. What is episode 3 called? Episode 3. Oh yeah, Shuttle to Kenfori, an extremely generic episode. A Space Adventure Hour, that's probably the one. I think there's an episode, judging by the trailer, that's like a 1960s TV show, which I think is probably what that Space Adventure Hour is. I'll be honest, the trailer didn't really sell me too much on Stranger World Season 3. I don't know, I think I was just kind of... I don't have that inherent love for Stranger World Season 3, but by God, it'll deliver a Wedding Bell Blues, and that's what I'm here for. Through the lens of time, I guess some sort of time travel thing, the Shallot who ate its tail. I'm pretty sure the Shallot are like the Vulcan quote-unquote teddy bears. We've probably heard this proverb before, but I don't remember it. What is Starfleet is the name the episode name I'm kind of most intrigued about. 4.5 Vulcans. I've remembered why the trailer didn't sell me on it. 4.5 Vulcans is, we got a clip of this on, like Comic-Con or something ages ago, is, you know, the one where they made Spock a human and it was like, I would say it had racist undertones, but it actually was just the plot, and it also didn't really understand Vulcans. It's that, but we've made the humans Vulcan, and so I'm gonna hate that one. Terrarium and New Life and New Civilizations. I don't think I can read that comment out on stream, but as I said, I was not thinking let's hire the bartender when they did that. Hegemony. Right. It's been 2 years. I'll probably get a chance. I don't want to complain. I don't want to do a stream where I just complain, right? The Gorn are not for me. This sort of war stuff is not for me. There's a lot of subjective general things I could go over 100 times about what I don't like this. I mean, some of it's superficial. I don't like the Gorn redesign. Like Kirk had evidently went toe-to-toe with this thing in a fist fight. No. I don't, more like substantially, I don't like how the Gorn are being portrayed is very animalistic, but particularly extremely instinctual to the point where they can't seem to actually overcome their instinctual drives. And if, like, there's nothing inherently wrong with that, but there is spacefaring intelligent race that have built all the ships we've seen. I would like to, like, they built this. They did. I would like to point out that everyone on this away mission is likely instinctually terrified of being on this ship, but they overcome it. And I just hate that. I hate the species like so instinctually driven that flashes of other sun control them. I don't like it. It's not a tone I like, but I think what I will talk about briefly, I don't want to spend too much, is I think this is a bad episode even accepting that. I knew it wasn't going to be great when last season's finale ended. No, when, let's take this scene, which I have criticized modern Star Trek a lot for this. This came up in Prodigy, whereas modern Star Trek really, really seems to love. It almost, at this point, I think it feels like it's a core of the franchise that we ignore our orders and go do whatever we want and we think is right. I will not pretend that classic Star Trek never did this, especially with the Prime Directive, but I like to treat the Prime Directive differently here. But like a general order like this, you're not to cross the neutral zone. You're not to yada, yada, yada. To the point where it is usually the first thing suggested is let's not do that. But this scene in particular really rubs me the wrong way because they talk about, they don't name the authority, but some organization that has, I want the establishing shot paramount, there we go, some organization that actually has authority over this, be it Starfleet Command, or I get the impression the civilian government, the Federation Council, says don't intervene. These are, other than Pike-specific encounter, which was also, let's be honest, a violation of direct orders, other than that encounter, they have kind of been raid and go. This isn't actually our territory. I think we're saying that these are worlds that aren't part of the Federation, but are kind of surrounded by the Federation. I think that's how we're talking about Federation space, but I'm not clear. But, like, they're not ours. They're straight up a foreign country. Or, like, maybe an American, like a Native American reserve would be the best example. Like, maybe? But all we know is that the actual people with authority have said, don't engage this. You could start a war we can't win. And the admiral, the military decides to just ignore that and go punch the Gorn back is the unofficial orders. I shouldn't have to tell you that there is never a scenario in which the military ignoring the civilian government to do its own thing is a good choice. But it's real convenient for my point that this episode happened to air, a few weeks after, like, the American president committed an act of war against the country of Iran without going through Congress, which he might not have legally had to. He definitely broke the law in some spots, but is the civilian authority that has the power to declare war. This is a bad, and I don't know why we're treating it as good. There was even the bit where then, what's the solution to the medical problem? Well, we're going to violate regulations and use Una's blood, which initially I wasn't clear what the regulation was. I thought they weren't going to tell her, and that was the problem. Then I remembered it's the whole genetic engineering thing, which is a bit different. I will say that, but I think it's different because the franchise, and especially Strange New Worlds, but the franchise as a whole has basically always kind of held, well, I guess after Wrath of Khan, it seems to have always held that genetic engineering ban is just like a racist thing done out of fear. So rather than ignoring legitimate orders and procedure, and the military just ignoring a civilian government to like hit a person, a foreign government they don't like where it hurts. That's a bad release timing. That's not the show's fault, but maybe you shouldn't have written something so like obviously immoral into the show. But no, that's a bit different because it contextualizes it less is that and more of let's ignore the racist thing and do the right thing, which you could still argue is a matter of perspective, and I'll accept that. But at least the show's done legwork to present that that's just a dumb law, That's kind of, I guess that's kind of why I want to treat the Prime Directive differently, is usually when we violate the Prime Directive, it's because in that situation, it's failing to achieve its actual goals. And that's why I want to set the Prime Directive way differently. But this isn't just... The military just overrode the civilian government and risked war because it wanted to beat up the enemy. I don't know if... I keep feeling like I have to stress how bad it is, but like it's just... Does anyone actually think... I'm actually curious. Anyone in the chat, 2 viewers, does anyone not have a problem with this? On the one hand, it's not Pike. Like, Pike is being ordered to do it, but he's very much been like, Pike, this is an illegal order. Go do it. And it really bothers me that this has seemed to become such a core part of the franchise. Like, it's almost laughable in Prodigy when Janeway sits down. It's near the end of season 2 with, like, her senior staff. And she's like, all right, what can we do? And the very first thing out of like anyone's mouth is, well, Captain, we can't commit mutiny. We've done it too much recently. The first suggestion isn't a suggestion. It's pointing out that we can't break the law. When did we become this? Like, I don't know. Maybe these things are here for a reason. It really bothers me. And like, yes, there were instances, especially Deep Space Nine, where they broke the law. But I think in Deep Space Nine, they usually acknowledged, at the very least, it was morally gray. The only time I can think of off the top of my head that Star Trek kind of did this in the past and it was just seen as good was when it's like early Deep Space Nine with the Circle, where Starfleet ordered them to pull out and they basically went nah and hit on Deep Space Nine and like sabotaged it. There's probably other instances, but that's not... I don't think that's what Starfleet is. I don't think that's what Star Trek is. And I don't think that's good. I think that's very, very, very bad to just say, screw the rules and the proper authority, even if the proper authority was also the military, Starfleet Command. It's like, yeah, the council seems to have really good points here. Maybe we should listen to them. And it's like, oh, just because they're member worlds, we're not going to help them? It's like, well, no, Pike. Like, kind of yes, but the Gorn, they just assume they're invading. They just assume it. And the council could just as easily be right. But I don't know. It really bothers me on also a lot of levels. They also seem to be racist. Although, hey, I've remembered that point where Pike talked about how he didn't think Andorians were planners. What a weird, bizarre, racist line to just have, but okay. This bit, maybe we'll get some interesting stories with, I think it's paella. It is literally just like that Spanish food, right? Paella? I don't remember her name. Carol Kane and Scotty. Maybe we'll get some interesting stuff. I don't know. I didn't really like this scene too much because Carol Kane is like, this is why you document everything when you're engineering. I'm like, but dude was like in a broken shuttlecraft with the Gorn breathing down his neck. What do you even want him to document on? So, engineer's log. I'm currently connecting pylon A to subsection. Oh no, the Gorn heard me. I'm dead. It's like, what? I think as a software engineer, right? I know we're notoriously bad at documentation, but as a software engineer, I think there are times where maybe you just don't document what you're doing, you know? Like maybe in a life or death time is of the essence situation, maybe the documentation would be bad. This ship is too big. I don't know. I'm blitzing through. This bothered me too. They're sitting around like these people are actively being digested. If we don't act soon, they're all gonna die. And it's like, well, we could try and take them down, but we don't have enough time. We're not gonna do it. I'm like, okay, maybe stop talking about it and like save the ones you can and start doing it. And then they just kind of leave to keep the people being digested and beam them out. I don't know. That really, it bothered me too. It's like they're actively being digested. Maybe we do something about that. It's just not for you and me anymore. Look, the Stranger Worlds is very episodic. I love the next episode. That one's for me. People seem to think this one was like good to fine. A decent action is the vibe I was getting. I mean, subjectively, action is generally a genre I don't get on with well. I watched I think the first Indiana Jones. That was a while ago, but like maybe a decade ago on a plane. And I was surprised how much I didn't like it. It's just, there's no plot to an action. That's not necessarily true. I mean, like Die Hard has a plot, a pretty well thought out plot. But oftentimes an action is kind of just action. Let's not think about what's happening. And I got the vibes from this one. We haven't even talked about how they beamed literally hundreds of people through shields in seconds. I just realized, with massive interference from the two suns. Huh. But we're going to talk about that. I don't know. It's just, why is Stranger Worlds doing action with Gorn, I guess? I've never liked those episodes. This is probably my most disliked video, right? But what's the one where it's just about murdering babies and that's the episode? It's the one where Hemmer dies. They just murder the babies for like no reason, and the show's fine with that because they're lizard babies, so you don't care. God, I hated that one. I've still never finished that one. I've never actually seen the scene where Hemmer dies. This is why I don't want to do the streams over the real negative ones. I just kind of want to blitz through. It felt like a serious medical violation when apparently the captain's chair is just wired into these terminals. Maybe you could say that Captain Pike, as the significant other of Captain Patel, has some sort of special medical access to the records. Look, let's be honest, this is not Stranger Worlds' problem. Starfleet has been awful with medical ethics since, like, TOS. But why is the captain's chair wired into sickbay vitals in the first place? I don't know. Why does it? It's for pre-K now? You think Hegemony Part 2 is for preschoolers? I don't know. I mean, I don't think it's inappropriate for a preschooler, but I don't think it's a pre-K. Yeah, I don't know. I like the Enterprise. There we go. We got a picture of the Enterprise. There's your positive comment. Gosh. Okay. The Strange New Worlds CGI team and I have not... We don't see eye to eye a lot. This has been Please. I want a picture of the suns. Paramount, please. Why are you so Paramount Plus? I've lost it entirely now. Okay, those suns. I'm just going to play it. I've had critiqued Strange New Worlds a lot for the CGI not lining up with what's actually happening. There we go, finally. Also, I don't understand the whole Gorn homeworld being cloaked? Is it in the middle? Could you go around the suns? That doesn't make a lot of sense to me, but whatever. That's not my nitpick. My nitpick is that we have the world's tiniest stars. Why are they so tiny? Why are my stars so tiny? Can I get a shot of the Enterprise in between these stars? These are stars. They're pretty big, but it feels like those suns are the size of like the Empire State Building or something. They're just so crazy close together and small. You should not be able to see the curvature of a star, just generally. It really bugged me, and I don't understand why they're small, because you can just you could just have them be the same scale, but put the camera closer. I assume they're so close together because otherwise you couldn't get both the stars in the same shot, which is a really lame reason, but like at least it is the reason. I don't know. If you could have had a cool shot of the camera above the Enterprise and panning from one star to another to show the scale of it. But this is sci-fi. I feel like a huge portion of the audience is going to notice the suns are not only way too close, but the size of gobstoppers. And that just really... I can't even think of a scene in sci-fi with such worse space scaling. Yeah. Going on. Not too much... Really, I probably have more complaints. Oh yeah, like how we explicitly have the shields up. So many things. We have the shields up and we beam people. That's a big no-no. We beamed literally hundreds of people over in like 5 seconds flat. That's a big no-no. I know Voyager did it once, but... How does this happen? Where are the transporter pads? Did we beam them over 6 at a time and quickly move them over? Or did we do site to site? Because site to site, I don't think is supposed to be possible yet in this era. I'm pretty sure you need the pad until Next Generation. Maybe Discovery retconned that, but I don't know. Does Discovery have site to site transport? I feel like they go to the transporter room a lot. I like the updated surgical gear. I think these were also hazmat suits, but the fabric-y TOS aesthetic. This is a very good case of mimicking the TOS style, even though these outfits were really bad in TOS. They did them up a lot. Yeah, I don't know. This one just didn't. Nothing about this episode worked. I feel like it failed on its own merits. Oh, it's worth pointing out Pike praying. Mostly because I said this a lot. In Discovery, way back in Discovery Season 2, I don't even know if I covered. I didn't even review Discovery Season 2. But I had a prediction way back in early Star Trek that Pike was going to be the first explicitly religious captain, and he was going to be Christian. I don't remember the exact things. There was set up in Discovery to bring religion into Star Trek. And I think that's been a goal of Kurtzman. Of course, Star Trek at its core was atheistic, at least with the humans. That's a key part of Gene Roddenberry's vision of the future. But there's also the uncomfortable reality that flies in the face of the infinite diversity, infinite ways. I think Deep Space Nine maybe explores this a little bit, probably not great. And I think it's hard to argue a show that comes out when like 2/3 of the population religious. I don't think it usually painted the like Christianity, Islam, any of the human religions as bad, but the mere absence of them in a utopia is suggestive. You know, it has implications. They haven't taken that route with Pike. In fact, he like before leaning down, he's in debate. He has a line like, "All right, Dad, you win." So his dad was Christian, obviously. I assume he was raised as such. He at least seems familiar with some of the very traditional prayers. but even I don't know those. But that's only worth bringing up. I feel like maybe if I can take anything from my early predictions that they were going to make Pike Christian, it's this. But yeah, I don't know. If I was writing Star Trek, I'd probably ignore religion. It's just so ingrained in the world that the people aren't religious. I know TOS has some references, so heck, maybe you could get away with it in Stranger New Worlds. But I don't know. It's a complicated one because I feel like those are both conflicting cores of the franchise. But so far, I don't really have complaints. I don't think. Anyways, gosh, I'm going to remember all those things I wanted to nitpick about episode 1, but I don't want to do. I've said before, it's why I stopped Picard. If it ever just become, like, I will rip to shreds a terrible episode of a good series. I will, happily. Want to go watch my Rogue review? Or, The Reality War? You know, I will do that. But if a series just becomes, like, bad episodes, and that's all I'm doing, like it was with Picard, I'd stop. That's it. I do not expect that for Stranger Worlds. We've got one bad one coming down the pipe. I'd be very surprised if I eat my words, because it's the Humans Become Vulcans one, which is the same joke, but flipped, because that was a popular episode, even if a lot of people do recognize how, like, deeply uncomfortable and eugenic it is, and how much it, on the surface, promotes the message that your personality is dependent on your race, and changing someone's DNA literally changes their personality to mimic the stereotypes of that race. Might I remind you that Vulcans are extremely emotional, and this is a learned societal behavior. But anyway, yeah, that's, I'm not looking forward to that one. It just seemed to be full of jokes from the bit we saw about aren't Vulcans emotionless sort of stuff. At least they remembered. I think there was a line that, like, Vulcan emotions are super powerful. And so it was going to be that the humans couldn't deal with that. But I have a lot of problems with the eugenics that are explicitly in the text of that episode. But hey, we got a new Q, and he was amazing. He really was. I would not be disappointed if Roger was a part of this season. I do find it kind of comical. We literally 3-month time skipped over Christine being gone. I was wondering how they were going to handle that, and the answer was they wouldn't. But yeah, Roger was good. Q was good. It was fun seeing John Delancey. The new Doctor. Oh, I loved the new Doctor. I really want him to have bigger parts. M'Benga is a nice character. I like M'Benga. I do. But he's quite stoic. I was talking with my wife as we were trying to do the thumbnail for this season. He's not super expressive externally. He would not make a good YouTuber. But I could see those two being really well together. M'Benga and then the more outwardly jovial, maybe? I don't know. I'm looking forward to seeing more of him because he's definitely my favorite. I hope we don't get like a Blue. Was that the name? No, Adira? I can't even remember her name anymore. The non-binary one from Discovery. Chat. What the hell was their name? I think Blue is the actor. Who's Adira? Is it oh my gosh, I cannot remember her name. Star Trek Discovery Adira? Yeah, it's Adira. Who I believe I had a very like initially positive reaction to Adira, and then the character just evolved into awkward. That's the end of the sentence. That's the end of the sentence. So hopefully I'm not disappointed, but I really like that Doctor guy, and I would happily replace him with Chapel any day. I don't think he's here to replace Chapel, but hey. Yeah, that would be it. There is no Doctor Who tomorrow. And the next week, Caden is busy. But yes, then the week after we'll be back. I don't know, it'll be a while after Strange New Worlds ends in September. I still don't know if we'll do War Between the Land and the Sea. Academy won't come out this year. I think they're doing filming. Maybe it can come out last year. Or to come out next year. It's gonna be weird with all these shows not happening. I might go through some rewatches. I haven't rewatched a lot of these either. I'm doing Doctor Who with both modern Doctor Who with Caden and classic Doctor Who with my wife. So I don't really want to. Yeah, I kind of want to go in as fresh as possible with the two of them. But I'm also doing Star Trek with my wife. So it's been ages, but we'll see. I don't know. I'll try and get into them. I've got the Excelsior right here from Picard, which is very nice. I wasn't sure, but I was thinking I might use the quality of this model to decide if I even go with Fan Home or cancel the subscription. The Titan and the Enterprise G are like, I've just had these. I wasn't as into them. And as I mentioned, I ditched Adobe. I don't have $60 subscription on Starship is not what it was to me like 7 years ago. God, has it been that long? But this one's quite nice. I will say, I quite like the Excelsior model. I just need to get the time to film and then actually find an equivalent to Premiere that I can use to video edit. Shouldn't be too hard, I just have to do it, so we'll see. I think with that, though, I will say thank you all. Oh, when is Lower Decks coming back? It's not. That was the final season. Yeah, no, that was Lower Decks' final season. Unless there's like a revival, it's done. Prodigy's done. Doesn't sound like Netflix is renewing it. Discovery's done. Academy is like a year from now, at least. And Stranger Worlds has 2 more seasons. But yeah, no more Lower Decks, unfortunately. That one was very good, too. I don't know what I'd rank it above Prodigy. It probably depends on the day and how I'm feeling. But Stranger Worlds' highs, I think, are often higher than Lower Decks. It has more highs that are higher. But Lower Decks doesn't really have lows. Which Strange New Worlds has lows. So, yeah, unfortunately, Lower Decks is done. But, as I was saying before, I guess, I will say thank you all. Oh, and we don't know when Doctor Who is, but hey, you'll hear it from us when we do. I will say thank you all very much for watching,